I get this lovely, lovely book that I get to honestly like geek out on for people.
Oh, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Let's empower everybody watching to know enough to be dangerous.
People who are actually getting out of that 9-to-5 employee mindset can make money and use it to their advantage. And they do this by building businesses.
All right, you guys, welcome to Free Mama TV. We've got something very exciting today. We have a hybrid interview with the amazing Noemi. We were together on the sandy beaches of Mexico a few weeks ago. We recorded an entire interview for you guys all about, it's really sexy, taxes. And our video crashed and it went crazy, but don't worry, we're going to make this video really cool for you guys. And I begged Noemi to come back and do it again because there's so much value in this topic. Like, if taxes are scary to you, show of hands. Yeah, they're kind of scary for me too. So much so, you guys, that 7 years ago, like, I almost didn't start freelancing because of two things. Number one, I'm like, how do people have insurance if they don't have a job? Like, it was so foreign to me. Like, I had no idea. And my brain couldn't wrap itself around the fact that, like, there were already people doing it. Like, maybe just go ask one of them. But the other thing that really terrified me was taxes, because when you're an employee, like, your company is just like taking it out for you. And then you just like submit your form and you go on your merry way. You kind of hope that it lands and you don't owe anymore. And maybe you'll get some back and it's good to go. And so it was so intimidating for me when I first got started. But what I want you guys, my biggest takeaway for you from this video, from this conversation with Noemi, is the tax code was written for business owners. And if you're watching this video, you've decided to be self-employed, maybe you're a full-fledged business owner, you've got team, you've got whatever, like, as you grow, the tax code was written for you. So this is going to be kind of 101. We're going to get some baby steps, and then we're going to like hopefully throw some like big value, for you so that you can start to dive into this a little bit more in a non-intimidating way. But before we do, Noemi, let everybody know a little bit about who you are. Like, if they've never seen you before, they're like, okay, I'm used to Lauren waving her hands around. Who are you? What do you do? Why are we having this conversation?
Yeah, so Lauren, thank you so much for having me here today. It is so exciting. Take 2 of this video. Right?
We're committed to the tax code.
I love this so much. My name is Noemi Aguilar Horta. I am the founder of the Mom Accounts Bookkeeping Community, where I teach moms the skill set of bookkeeping. And I make sure that they're also knowledgeable in taxes, because to me, a bookkeeper that has tax knowledge is going to be able to serve their client like way more. Yeah. I also have a virtual bookkeeping and tax firm that I've been running for the past almost 8 years now, but I have actually been in the tax world since I was like 17 years old. So you're going to have to do the math, okay? But ever since I was 17, I've been doing them. And it's been about almost, 16 years now that I've been in the tax world. So it's been something that I have learned by continuing education, right? I've been able to attend seminars in business, and I get this lovely, lovely book that I get to honestly like geek out on, because this is actually the U.S. Master Tax Guide with tax codes for people.
I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, I just threw up in my mouth. But
if you go through it, I literally have like highlighted stuff and things like that I geek out on this stuff, and I can talk about it all day.
That's beautiful. And that's exactly why you're here, because I'm in the camp that I think a lot of our viewers probably are, Noemi, of like, I just want to know enough to be dangerous. I don't want this to be my career. I don't need to even execute it for myself. I'm a huge advocate of working with professionals, because if you work with the right people, it will more than pay for itself in the ways that they're able to help you, especially when it comes to tax deductions. So I just want to know enough to be dangerous. So that's kind of meaning, if I don't have a little bit of knowledge, I can't help myself help you limit my tax liability, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of my goal for this video, is like, let's empower everybody watching to know enough to be dangerous. Does that sound good to you?
I love it because that is actually my jam. A lot of my clients, I'm always telling them, guys, like you need to know what is happening. And I love to, like when I'm doing taxes and I do the reviews, I'll show them my actual screen and so that they can see exactly what I am doing so that they can understand it. Some of them will be like, oh, that is so cool. It's so interesting. But I'm not gonna lie, some people are kind of like, yeah, I don't really care. But it is super crucial for you to at least get some form of basic concept. And I love the word you use of just being kind of like dangerous. Did you say?
Yeah. You know enough to be dangerous.
Yes, it's like we flirt, but we want to do things the right way. Okay. Because I have personally seen, things go really, really bad for people who, take too much advantage of it. And I don't want to say it that you take advantage of the tax code, but you play it to yourself. And I think at the end, that's what it's
about. Let's talk about that. You've got that huge book in front of you. And again, I already shared, like it's intimidating. I mean, just the idea of even like paying taxes on my own when I first started as a freelancer was intimidating. And this is actually a lesson I took with me from like my first side gig when I was doing wedding planning. Like my whole philosophy as a wedding planner was hire the right professionals, the photographer, the florist, the caterer, and then let them be excellent at what they do. It's not about micromanaging. And I'm grateful that I brought that mentality into this business with me, because I hire a bookkeeper or my CPA or whatever. And it's the same where I'm like, I want to know enough to be dangerous, but like, let them be excellent at what they do. So that book that you just held up a minute ago, the tax code was written for business. Literally page 1 says like, everybody's going to pay taxes. Right. Yep. And we do in a lot of different ways, right? We got property tax and capital gains tax and sales tax, and I'm sure a million other things that I won't even be able to think of. And then that's like page 1, right? And then like the rest of the book is written for like business owners and property owners. True?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Tell us about that. Like what does that mean to someone who's listening? And like, what does that mean for us?
Yeah. So I've been really obsessing from the books that, I posted about, which is the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then the Cash Flow Quadrant. I've known about it.
I want to shout out Tax-Free Wealth. It's the same kind of, it's written by the Rich Dad, Robert Kiyosaki's CPA. It's our book club book in the squad. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And it's like, we always come ourselves thinking like, man, how did these people make money? How do these people, have so much money? And you always hear about rich people not paying taxes. And then you're always hearing about like the middle class or like the poor people, quote unquote, right? That make under 30,000 or 20,000, right? How come they, are not taxing, or how come they're paying more taxes actually instead of the rich? And it's like, it's simple, mamas. It's the fact that rich people or people who are actually getting out of that 9-to-5 employee mindset can make money and use it to their advantage. And they do this by building businesses. Like the IRS has no cap on anyone on how many businesses you can own. Literally, you can really transfer, if you have properties into business, you can right now as freelancers, right? You want to build a business, you want to register yourself as a single member LLC so you can take advantage of all of these tax opportunities that you can do, right? I think a lot of times that's to me kind of like the starting point for freelancers, right? Become a single member LLC. You want to do that because that's going to give you the status of a business and protection of a business. A lot of people are like, well, can I just be a sole proprietorship? Technically you can, but we always have to think worst case scenario. And that's what I'm always telling my clients. Worst case scenario, you get sued for whatever reason. If you are not a single member LLC, they can go after your personal assets. Yeah. And it's like, you don't want them to take your house, your cars, whatever you might have in personal assets, So it's like, if you're starting a freelancer business, you want to start off by registering it as a single member LLC. So you get that protection. And then you actually
before you keep going, if you guys have questions about that, I don't want to get into the business legal side too much, but we have a video right here on this channel. We'll drop a link down below. I have an interview with Kaylee Jacome, who's my attorney, and she can answer all those questions for you guys. So if you're like, what does that mean? And I think the big objection, Noemi, there is usually startup cost. It's like, depending on what state you live in or where in the world, like, oh, it's $700, it's $1,000, it's whatever. But you have to shift that mentality. And that's kind of what this whole thing is about. Like, you have to start thinking like a business owner so that you can start thinking about what you can write off. The media wants us to get pissed off at rich people who aren't paying taxes. But what the media isn't sharing with us, because, you know, their job is to kind of keep everybody status quo. What they're not sharing with us is that that big book that Noemi held up is actually written to tell us how to take advantage of the tax code, meaning not how to exploit it, but how to use it in our favor. And it's all for business owners. So step one, open your LLC, right?
Open your LLC. You know, you want to make sure that you are categorizing and taking advantage of the expenses that you can do as a single member LLC business, right? What does that mean, right? Is being able to take home office deduction. So this is a big one.
Yeah.
Why, as a tax preparer, a lot of people say, why don't you open up an office? Like, you would have more presence office in office. I'm like, you know what? Yes, an office can also give me a tax write-off, right? I can deduct that off of my expenses, but I can deduct my home. I can take a little bit more advantage in that sense. And if you notice too, like a lot of big business owners, they operate their stuff from home. You know, a lot of people have, you know, established home offices for that same reason, right? Yeah, you can still have an office and do all of that. That's fine. But for me, the way my business is running, I get to deduct utilities. I get to deduct square footage, property taxes, like so many things that come to my personal expenses that because I'm using for my business, my cell phone, my internet, right? Stuff like that, that are going to allow me to continue to have this as a tax deduction that are sometimes personal, right? But we want to make sure we get the right percentages, the whole table that you do for that, right?
I was going to say, I have an Excel sheet for all my students in the free mom movement, or if you've got questions, I do. Yeah, that my CPA made. And I literally go in, I wish I did it every month. It would be really smart, but usually I just do it at the end of the year. Do it at the end of the year. And I go and I put, you know, it's my electric bill, my gas bill, my whatever. And I put my whole bill for the entire year, you know, month by month. And and I put my square footage in the top, and it's already like formulated that it spits out what percentage of my home is tax deductible. And it's pretty cool.
And even in there, right, you can put in like, why do you guys think I actually ended up hiring a housekeeper? Because you can actually deduct a percentage of that too. You know, it's like everything.
That is good to know.
That is, I mean, obviously you're not going to deduct the whole house, the whole pay, but again, it's the same concept because it's a repair and maintenance that you're doing to your home and stuff like that, you know? So those little things, according to that schedule, obviously you can't deduct it 100%. And this is where we say, we want to flirt with the IRS, right? And take advantage of it, but we don't want to take too much advantage of it because we don't want to get audited.
That's so awesome. All right, let's back up for a second, because I think we have so many different places we can go. But the first question that I think I get asked all the time, assuming someone, you know, they take that first step, they become a business owner, it has to do with, when the heck do I pay taxes as someone who's self-employed, you know, or a business owner? Like, what does that look like? Do I have to pay quarterly taxes? Because when we're an employee, we're all pretty much just stuck on the April 15th thing. Like, that's what we know. What do we need to know if we're a business owner about paying taxes?
Yes. So as you're starting to pretty much earn cash, we call it cash, right? When you're getting paid through a 1099 NEC form at the end of the year, they're not getting, you know, any taxes deducted from that form. So as you're starting to receive this money, you have to start tracking your income and expenses. This is crucial because as a freelancer, we don't want to end up with a surprise bill at the end of tax season, which this year is April 18th. So we don't want to, you know, in the next couple of weeks, find out that we have a $5,000 or $6,000 tax bill because we didn't pay in what are called these estimated tax payments. And these estimated tax payments are going to be your best friend. It's kind of like if you were, you know, working at someone, you know, for a W-2 and you were getting your taxes withheld, but now because it's your business, you're going to be going off of your profits, okay, after all of your expenses. You don't want to overpay taxes. I'm always telling my clients, I'm like, don't overpay taxes. That's like an interest-free loan that you're giving to the government. For what? For them to give it back to you at the end of the year, right? That's where these estimated taxes come in, and they assist you to, you know, get as close and as accurate as possible to pay in your taxes. Now, as a freelancer, it is very different, you know, at the end of the year, because you might qualify for credits. Maybe your spouse works, that they do have a W-2, you know, that they do have taxes that get withheld. But these estimated taxes can actually really guide you to get an idea of how much you need to pay in. And it's not every quarter because the dates are really weird. So like, for example, this year for 2022, the first quarter's payment, it will be due also April 18th. And that's going to cover January, February, March's income and expenses and the profit from it. The next one is June 15th. That is actually only going only cover April and May's income and profits from it as well. The next one would be September 18th, I believe, no, September 15th, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think that falls on a weekend. But again, it's only going to be for pretty much July and August. And then in January 18th of next year, 2023, we're going to be paying September, October, November, December. So it's not quarterly. Don't get it mixed up. I know sometimes IRS uses quarterly a lot for payroll taxes, but for estimated taxes, it's like, you know, the dates are familiar. Yeah. So you can easily do a quick Google search of like, you know, when the estimated due dates are in case you're still not 100% sure. But that's kind of how the deadline kind of comes in. So that way you don't think, oh, the next quarter is going to be due until July, but it was actually payment due in June. So that's where it gets a little confusing. But being able to track those incomes, those expenses, even if you're doing just an Excel, like that's where hire a professional if you're not confident in it, because you are going to miss out on tax deductions. I can't say this enough, how many clients I've came across, they're like, no, I'll do it on my own. I'll do it on my own. So then when we do their first estimated tax payment, or, you know, whichever one, they have huge profits. And I'm like, do you not have this deduction? Do you not have that deduction? And they're like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. And it's like, sometimes we don't think about it, right? Or we think that we can't. Yet, you know, as tax professionals, bookkeepers, you know, we are knowledgeable in those areas and can make sure that we, you know, get you your biggest tax refund at the end of the year. That is always my goal toward my clients. Either biggest tax refund to make sure you get all of your credits, or
pay as little as possible.
Pay as little as possible. Exactly.
Yeah. There's no reason just to hand it over when you were entitled to have it based on the tax code written by the government. Yeah. Two quick stories just for advocating again, to work with a professional, you guys. The first is I used an Excel sheet for a long time. And then I moved, when I first started freelancing, I moved to QuickBooks Self-Employed. But the year that I launched the Free Mama and things really kind of started to take off, I had revenue coming in different ways. My CPA literally refused to file my taxes until I paid a bookkeeper to go back and re-audit my entire fiscal year before, because he looked at it and he was basically like, you're going to get hosed and you didn't know what you were doing. So it paid for itself with what I would have saved. And if I would have just been doing it the whole time, like not only would it have paid for itself, but like I actually would have kept more of my money in my bank account. So that's the first thing. The second thing is with the quarterly taxes, Noemi, when you're working with a professional, you're still guessing to an extent, you know, you're making predictions and the longer you're in business, but if you're working with a tax professional that you can have conversations with, like I paid in anticipating the same year's profits from the year before, but last year was actually really hard for me for a lot of different reasons. And so because I was working with a professional and we were having open conversations, we were able to like kind of taper off the estimates towards the end of the year. And now I don't know anything. Like I'm sitting pretty on what we had paid in at the beginning of the year. So it's nice to have someone who really understands your business. And I'll just acknowledge, like, there is a level of vulnerability with it. Like we're not used to talking about money. Like that's super like taboo, but if you can find someone that you trust, like this same person was able to help me, like, you know, with all the PPP loans that came out, you know, during the pandemic, like that was not on my radar because in my mind, I'm like, I don't need it. Like, I'm okay. I'm paying myself. And he's like, it doesn't matter. You're entitled to it. Exactly. And what ended up happening is like, I did need it later on. Like I just didn't need it. And so that more than paid for itself, you know, I mean, so there's just a lot of advantages. So let's keep, do you have anything else on that?
Yes. I just want to add a little bit about the estimated taxes too. And because you said like how you were talking and tracking and kind of measuring, right? Yeah. So it's important to do that because too, if you're not going to have actually a tax liability of over $1,000 at the end of the year, you're not obligated to send an estimated tax payment, but you do want to check up on it. You know, you do want to check on it on any quarter. I'm sorry, I had to get out of saying quarter. When the estimated taxes are due, just in case, right? Yeah. Check up on it for sure.
And so on that side, like, how do we make sure that we're being, maybe not fully conservative, but certainly prepared? Because I have many stories because my husband's also an entrepreneur. And that whole, like, you know, it wasn't actually April, it was October because we had filed an extension and we still got slapped with a bill that we were not able to pay. And it was terrifying. And we do not work with that CPA anymore. They did not have experience working with small businesses, but that was a really hard lesson to learn. So how much do you recommend setting aside, whether you're just getting started or you've been playing this game for a while? What does that look like?
So, excuse me, for, For single member LLC businesses, you always want to consider 100% what would be your Social Security, Medicare for, at least taking care of that, which is about a 15.3% of that self-employment tax. Like that one is like Bible, like you want to have that percentage to the side, but then you also have to consider federal taxes and state taxes, depending if you live in a state that you're going to pay taxes. So if you're kind of like throwing a rough number out there, to me, am pretty comfortable anywhere between like a 20 to almost 26%, depending how you file too. Single, head of household, married, family, jointly, right? So because those are many big differences for single member LLC businesses because of the standard deductions that you can get, right? And also as a single member LLC business, there's a couple other credits that the IRS actually gives you too. So you can qualify for what is called QBI, Qualified Business Income Deduction, because you have a running business. I think I've seen that question actually in the Free Mama group where they were asking about it. It's like, as long as you are operating a business, that your 1099s that you're getting, right, or pertaining a business that you are running, you can qualify for that. And then the IRS also at the beginning gives you in your income a tax adjustment for the self-employment tax, but you want to at least consider that percentage to put aside for taxes. And that's where the quarterly taxes, the estimated taxes come in to help you navigate how much to put aside. It will include the Social Security and your federal. And then you also want to look into the state. Don't forget about the state one, because that's the one that a lot of people overlook because we're always just thinking federal. But like, I live in the state of Illinois, and they are horrible with taxes. Let me tell you, they're going to tax you like probably worse than the IRS. So yeah, it's definitely thinking of that. If you want to think about like a percentage, like anywhere between a 20 to 26% approximate, again, according to how you do your filing status and your taxes. And as a corporation and S Corp, though, that is very completely different because now there are actually more tax advantages that you can take in that sense. And you don't want to make that shift though, until, you're probably having profits between $40,000 to $50,000 a year.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So let's talk about claiming deductions, which is kind of what, the tax code is giving us permission to do. What are some of those most common things that we can be looking for when it comes to our expenses and investments as business owners?
Yeah, absolutely. So like for your business, what you were saying a little bit, that a lot of people were actually afraid to open up or, register their LLC because of the price. Well, any startup costs are actually tax deductible, right? So even if, again, shift the mindset, right? It's no longer I'm not spending the money. It's actually a tax deduction to my business. Any kind of continuing education, anyone who's taking the Free Mama, who's in squad or anything like that, right? Things like that are going to continue your education on courses, coaching, that is tax deductible as well, because it's something that is going to improve your business. We have to think about an expense being anything that is tangible and necessary for my business, right? That's where an expense comes in. You want to also look, again, we talked about the home office deduction, all of that. If you have a car, like a lot of people sometimes in freelancing, I have a lot of local clients that I sometimes actually go to their businesses, right? I can deduct mileage or I can deduct, fuel. You want to determine those things towards the end of the year, right? So that way it makes sense on your expenses. Quick, also kind of, because I can make a huge list about it, and I can actually provide that to you, Lauren, so you can give to the girls and anyone who's watching this. A big one too is like going into just Google search Schedule C form, and that is going to give you the actual federal form that gets reported, and just go off of there what all those expenses are, you can deduct. You can take those deduction off of that Schedule C and just think about it, be more in detail, because like even insurance and like, subcontractors that you hire out, stuff like that. And then a big one that we recently did that I love, right? Business trips. Why not?
Shout out to Mexico. Yeah. Mixing business and pleasure is like one of my favorite ways. It is the absolute best. And that's what we're all about, right? Is like creating this freedom-based business. And so you can do it in a way where you're still growing, you're learning, you are forwarding your business. Maybe you're hosting an event with clients or going, to a mastermind or coaching type event where you're investing in your education, but you get to go somewhere really cool and you get to write it off. I mean,
I did a whole TikTok on that just because I was like, okay, take me on trips as long as I can tax deduct it. Like I'll be there.
That's amazing. And we'll put the link for you guys to connect with Noemi. Her TikTok's awesome. She's got a Facebook group, all the things. We'll give you a link to all of that down below this video as well. Before we wrap up, Noemi, any other final tips that we haven't talked about today, just to make taxes less scary, or to help us kind of work this system that really was created for us, for business owners?
So every year I actually go to IRS tax seminars, and the IRS commissioner, he's always like the keynote speaker. And he says, guys, like the IRS we're not mean. We're not bad people, right? We don't want to see businesses fail, right? We want businesses and people to thrive, right? We are just collecting what is just. And, that's a justice system that we cannot, as long as we might agree with it, we might not agree with it, right? But it's in law, it's in writing.
Knowledge is power, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So and that's, I think, something I want to, reaffirm to everybody. Like, taxes do not need to be scary. They should not be scary as long as you have the right people, right? You're making the right deductions, that you're making sure you're taking advantage of all of the tax credits that the IRS offers. Like this year, there's been so many. Like, did you know in your tax returns, that's freelancers, single member LLCs, there's a COVID relief tax credit. There's a child dependence care expenses that you can take up to $8,000 per kid. Like, right, those kind of credits, child tax, earned income credit, American Opportunity Credit. There's so many things that you can make sure that, you are looking at when you're filing your taxes, or when someone is filing your taxes, and ask about them. QBI, that's a big one, qualified business income deduction. I talked about it earlier, right? When you have a business, and making sure that, again, at the end of the year, we're not expecting to get money. Let's change that a little bit too. We're going to see, are we good with the IRS? Or do I still owe them money? And if they're giving money back to us based on credits, that is like a huge bonus.
Yeah, it happens every now and again. I'll go to my PO box and I'm like, woo, it feels like we want something. Like, it's amazing.
It feels good, right? It feels good, but it's not. I think to me, it's not intimidating. It's just the knowledge that sometimes we lack of understanding of what's happening. I've been doing taxes for years, and again, like, people who come to do taxes are like, woohoo, it's time to get money. I was like, no, I'm so sorry. It's time to see if you're good. Like, and they'll question, well, why is my refund less? Stuff like that. But, it's just the tax knowledge that we need to know and understand, and taking advantage and question that to our tax preparers, actually, or our CPAs, accountants, whoever's filing the tax return, because you want to make sure that, hey, I just want to know if I qualify for this. And if you don't, cool. And if it's something that you're like, maybe I should, right? It's okay to get other opinions as well. It's okay to ask around. And I know actually in the Free Mama group, there are a lot of amazing CPAs, accountants, tax preparers in there that every time I see someone respond, I haven't seen anyone respond the wrong thing. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. So make sure you guys jump inside the Free Mama Movement Facebook group. Noemi's in there. I'm in there. I am not as tax knowledgeable as her. You can ask me questions too. You can tag us, and I'll tell you again below this video how you can connect with Noemi. I think my biggest takeaway is, you guys, don't be scared, because it was written for us. So find someone like Noemi who can help you interpret it so that you can start to work the system and keep more of your hard-earned money from your business in your pockets. That's the moral of the story.
Oh, and you know what? I actually just remembered something that we discussed. And before I forget, because this one is something that can actually be fully to our advantage, which is hiring our kids. Hiring our kids to work for us. And guess what? Those are tax deductions too. You can deduct up to $12,550.
And you can set your kid up with some like amazing work ethic and a little bit of cash.
Yes. What I've done, I personally do that with my teenager. He's now old enough. He helps me with like admin things, scanning, right? I'm actually teaching him how to do slowly little taxes here and there, right? He hates it, but I'm like, look, you're going to sit down and learn. Yeah. And it's a win-win for both of us, because I get to deduct what I pay him, right? His money goes right back into our home, right? He now is a teenager driving a car. He needs gas, he needs a car payment, all that good stuff, right? And we set him up with an IRA, which is also tax deductible. So, mamas, like it's like, take advantage of those opportunities. Hiring, sometimes even your spouses, are huge tax advantages, because you want tax deductions. You want to take those tax deductions and, play the game right, and you won't be paying taxes like rich people.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I have nothing else to add. That was fantastic. Mic drop. All right, you guys, check out all the links down below so you can connect with us. Noemi, thank you so much for being here. You guys, taxes, we can do this. We can do it.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me, Laura, and everybody. If you have any questions, please tag me in the Free Mama group and I'll be more than happy to assist you girls.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Noemi.
What is the best place for people to connect with you and learn more about tax tips, accounting, all things money?
So, I mean, I have a Facebook group, Mom Accounts Bookkeeping Community, where I do train, my bookkeepers and the girls. To me, it's super important that a bookkeeper also is, good with taxes and understands the concept, because you're going to be able to serve your clients even better.
Yep.
So that's a big place where you can go. I actually am in the process of working up on a YouTube channel. So as soon as it's ready, I'll let you know. Again, with tax tips, bookkeeping tips and stuff like that. And if you ever want to reach out or have any specific helps for my firm side, you can just send me an email, Noemi@TaxAccounting.com, and that'll be like the firm side of it. So
sweet. We'll put all of those links and resources down below, everything she mentioned here today. Hopefully this opened your eyes a little bit to the big world out there. Go travel, visit it, expense it, keep more of your money.
Have fun.
Have fun. We'll see you guys next time.